So we're going to do this video about putting a vehicle on the lift. So for the winter, we've had this lift kind of out of the way. We don't lift many cars. We just use it on the race ramps mostly. But when we start to get into our seasons where we get a lot of sports cars coming into the shop, it's good to have the lift ready to go. We do a lot of wheels off coatings. We do a lot of full car PPF. So like on this GT3, that's what we're going to put on the lift. So yeah, we're going to get this thing set up. So it is set up for 220, 240 volt. So we've got a couple of plugs around the shop. We've got one down there, one over here. But the one that we have to use is a twist lock. And so that's set up over there. It's for a reason. We got that installed over there because that's where the lift is going to be. So the mindset that we're in when we're setting up this lift, where it's going to be located in the shop, is, let me turn off the music in the background here real quick. So the idea is that most of these cars that are going on the lift are here for at least a week and a half. So we want it to be kind of deeper into our shop so that the higher flow stuff can kind of come in and out without it being in the way. Lessens our liability, kind of keeps things kind of in the background. So this kind of whole area here is going to end up being pretty much converted to a paint protection film area. We have our peel board for window tint, but we have tables and things for PPF. We're getting a peel board for PPF too, but it's a little bit harder to kind of operate that than just the tables. So we are going to set up this kind of whole area for that. So the one thing that I want to keep note of is that cars are typically backed on to the lift. Reason being is because you can actually get it lined up a lot better when you're in reverse, because you typically have those lines that you can see. And so judging how far off each side you are on the lift, because we use the scissor lift, is going to be a lot easier in reverse. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to set up this lift somewhere that it's going to be easy to put the car, you can come on by, Christian. It's going to be easy to get the car flipped around, whether we're prepping it and we have it in reverse, or, pulling it up and backing out, flipping it around in the shop. But we want that trip to be easy from the wash bay, prep bay, to the lift. So I'm looking at this car right now, and I'm thinking, okay, if I had to have it in reverse and I had to put it somewhere, also keeping in mind the length of the cord of the lift, where would I want this lift to be? The car also kind of needs to be out of the way. So I know that it's, when we're doing window tint, we're typically just pulling a car forward here, doing it here, or doing it there. Same thing with, some smaller PPF jobs or paint corrections and things like that. Paint corrections are mostly done like kind of in this general area. So I want the lift to be probably right about here. So I have to think, all right, when I'm getting this car on the lift, and you always want to do this with people around, but every once in a while I'm working on the weekend, have to get the car on the lift myself. How can I get it pulled up on the lift as easily as possible? Well, if I have the lift at an angle, yeah, I'll have the lines on the backup camera to kind of guide me, but I don't really have a good sense of what, I want another thing that's going to guide me that's also flat. So, looking at those lines, they usually have kind of an end to them. I kind of want to also gauge that off of how close I am to the wall. So I think setting up this lift to where it's probably going to end up being like right here. That way I can get the car onto the lift, semi-easily. I'll have to pull forward just here a little bit and get it kind of lined up. But I have these nice straight lines here. I have a straight line here, and then my lift will be leveled with these kind of lines in general, right? So that when I'm backing up the car and I'm looking at, like, say I'm looking at a mirror, or I'm looking at the lift and I'm looking at these different lines, it's just easier for me to get it on the lift the first time every time. So it'll take a couple of times for me to get used to it, but I think that we're gonna set up the lift kind of in this general area. Now, when the car is on the lift, you wanna have enough room on the back side of it, and you wanna have enough room on the front side of it. So if I look at that car, you know, enough room on the back side of it to get around it like this, away, and then the car will probably end up, the nose of the car will end up probably being somewhere about right here. Well, okay, if I have a window tint job, is that too close? Is that too much? I don't think so. I think that's gonna be enough room. The car is gonna be kind of in the air. We can get the window tint job pulled in just fine right here, have the doors open. Same thing with right here. There's gonna be lots of room over here if the tables aren't set up. I think that's a good area. But you also gotta remember, you're losing some space. So we're gonna try to set up some things for PPF, maybe on that side of the car, table-wise, things like that. Give ourselves some working room. So, all right, let's think about this now. So if I'm gonna use this dead space, because this is the whole thing why we downsize, we gotta be efficient with our space. So when you have a lot of space, you start kind of wasting it. So if I've got 6 tables set up here, or like 4, 5 tables set up here, they're gonna be 60 inches wide. So let me grab a tape measure. And let's just get it out to like 60 inches. This is 2 tables deep. So I'd want my tables, if I was setting it up, I'm gonna clear out some of this stuff right here. But if I was setting it up, I'd have 2 tables wide kind of chilling right here. And then I can use that whole row over there. As long as I can get my chair around it, I can weed out the film really nice. So if I'm thinking my tables are gonna be set up, they're gonna take up kind of up to right here. So I'd wanna be like right here. Okay, well, if I have the table set up and I have a door swung open, how far over do I wanna be this way to where I can use this amount of space efficiently? Well, I would think that the car would end up. I'd probably want to have the end of the car, the front right of the car, about right here. So I think leveling wise, that'll actually work out, because now I have this center line right here that I can use as the center of the lift, and then both of those markers on the reverse camera keeping the lines. So I have another set of lines. And unfortunately, it's not perfectly centered with one of those ribs, but it's close enough. And that's gonna be a nice line there. So I think that we're gonna move this lift to right here. That way we can use the most out of that space over there, still have enough space over here for polishing carts and things like that. I think that's gonna work out really nice. All right, so getting the lift. So I'm gonna set my tape measure right here, just so I can set it up right. So we have race ramps. There's a few things about these. These are super expensive. They don't look like it, but they are. Totally worth it though. They make kind of lining up the car a lot easier, lifting up the car a lot easier. The reason why we have these is so that the wheels can get, the tires end up being on here as you go to lift the car up. But this platform is super high, so when you have a low car like that, you can't get your blocks in here to lift the car up properly. So these race ramps help us elevate the car up a little bit so that the platform has enough room to move. Other things that are kind of around, you'll see these. When the lift is all the way up, this lift is really, really good. Has really expensive seals, really like huge pistons. We've had a few different lifts. The Nussbaum Sprinter 7 is the one that we're using. It's worlds better than the rest of them. So it doesn't like slowly go down overnight like other lifts. But if you want, we've done all the testing and all this stuff. We've had cars that are 7,000 pounds on here. It never goes down. But if you wanted to have an extra sense of security, it doesn't have built-in locks like a lot of lifts, and that's actually where another one of our lifts failed, was one of the locks barely caught, and it just started kind of going, and it bent the frame. You can actually lock out the lift by putting this inside of there and setting it down on this lock. So there's two of them here, one for each side of the lift, because there's two pistons. So we're gonna get this infrared lamp out of the way. So let's unlock this. This is another video talking about infrared lamps. We mostly use them for like accelerating touch-up paint curing or ceramic coatings curing. Heats up the panel a little different. It's really nice. Okay. So let's get these race ramps out of the way. Okay, so a few things about this lift right now. We want to get this thing in the position to actually move. So you can see the bottom of it is actually raised. It's actually not raised at all. So that means that the wheels are not installed. There's two wheels that go on each side, and then there's this little swivel wheel over here, and then there's actually a bar to pull it. So what we need to do is we need to lift the lift up, install the wheels, install the little mover here, and get this lift moved. So in order to install the wheels, you have to lift the lift up. So we're actually going to plug this in. I'm going to try not to tangle any of this stuff up and make my life harder. But we can get this guy kind of a little out the way. This is where the hydraulic pump is and the motor and everything to kind of lift the lift up. So let's get this over here. And this is the plug that's used. It's a twist lock. Can only go in one way. So you just install it here, just like that, and then twist it. Now it's locked in there. Can't pull it out. And make sure these wires are a little out of the way. And then this is where all the hydraulic pressure and everything goes into the lift. So we want to make sure that we don't crush those. They are stainless, or they're like steel, and they're like really, really, really strong. You can run them over with a car, but just try not to. So this lift is in the on position. There's an on and off switch over here, and then we can just lift it up. Making sure nothing looking weird. So these are the two wheels. You have a wheel that's attached inside of here, and there's actually a hole. You can come on this side here. There's one on that side too, but there's a hole right here. This is the wheel. You just throw the wheel in here. And as this lift comes back down, it gets into this slot and puts the wheel down. It's the same thing over here. Boom. Two wheels installed. Now let's grab this is kind of like the turning wheel. So it's got a swivel on here. It's not very good, if I'm being honest. It's like kind of bent up. And so it doesn't fully come through. So it kind of makes it a pain in the butt, but we should probably get a new one of these. And you can see it's pretty chopped up because it gets slid and stuff. So anyways, this ends up being on the inside. You see there's this kind of notch right here, and then it's rounded because it actually slides on in here, and then it slides over this kind of bar right here. And as long as it's centered, you know you're good. So now you can put the lift down, and all of the wheels will come up. The whole platform will come up. And I've got a little, as this gets hydraulic pressure in it, it starts to kind of twirl and do weird things. So I'm actually just gonna get it out of the way. But in order to drop the lift, you can't just push down. There's a button on the other side here, which I'll show you in a little bit. And you push down. It doesn't have any weight on it, so this takes a second. Yeah, I'm just making sure I got my wheels on there. And as it's coming down, I'm seeing like, okay, this might hit. So you don't have to really worry about all this stuff, like once you actually get the lift set up where it needs to be. But as we're doing this, some of these wires are getting in the way. Slide this over a bit more. Oh. We could just set this down right in here. I pulled a little bit too much that way, but it looks good. So we'll continue putting this down. There you go. So now you can see the platform is raised on all ends. There is this kind of like, I'm not even going to talk about it because if there's supposed to be something down here, it's only on one side. It really doesn't make a difference. Yeah, so now we can grab the little bar it comes with. This guy. And then you put it in here. Might have to move the lift over just a little tiny bit. So get this guy in here. Might have to actually bring this forward here a bit. I think the floor is a little kind of raised up towards the end here, so it isn't allowing this to go in. There we go. Sweet. And then you got to put the pump and motor and everything on lift as you move it. So we can unplug this. So there we go. That right there. Grab this guy. And so you can grab it from underneath here, and then there's also like a little pocket where my right hand is. And I'm gonna get these wheels up on here. When you are doing that, you wanna pull a little bit up on these two wires so that they don't get kind of caught up in there. But we can lean this over and wheel it onto the lift. Boom. And so now we can move this and it'll move as we move the lift. Boom. Looks good. All right. So now, there is a front and a back of this. If I think of how this was set up at our last shop, because you can swap these side to side. Let's see. This is going to have to be the front right. Yep. Yeah. Okay. So what we're going to do is going to pull this up. I want it to be centered with that tape measure. right. And so Christian, I'm gonna have to get some help from you here in a second. This might take a little bit of power, but let's, here, you come over here and pull the lift into that area while I kind of steer this. You're gonna pull it a little bit off to the right. Okay. Okay, pull that again.
Which way?
That way. Okay, now pull it straight back if you can. Okay, a little bit more. Okay. All right, now we gotta slide it this way a bit, and then now try to pull that way.
This way?
That way. Okay. That looks perfect. Now let's just verify by kind of looking at the distance in this line here. Five and a half inches. About 5.5 inches. Yeah, perfect. All right, so let's get this set up. Basically gonna pull this out. All right. There. Get these out of the way. Get this wire this way. So what I'm seeing is that this guy right here, let's see if we can get this out. Want this to be laying pretty flat, so we might have to move the actual hump and everything kind of around so we can get that knot out. So let's see. So yeah, like I said, I kind of want this to be as flat as possible. So we'll have to kind of come up around and on top of this. Let's see if that does it. Yeah. There we go. Nice and flat. And then yeah, you do want kind of a little bit of slack in this line, just a little out this way. I kind of kick it in whenever I'm working on the side of the car just a little bit because the car is up in the air. But yeah, this is good. Cool. And then we just want to run this wire now. Should reach. Ideally, I want it kind of as close to the wall as possible, but we might not have enough length. And not quite. It's not going to be hugging the wall like I would want, but that's fine. It's not super in the way. It's just that my goal of wanting to set up those tables right here too, probably gonna have to get another 240 plug installed right there so we can get the most out of this space right here. Nice. All right, so that's plugged in. Make sure it's locked out now. I usually do when I'm doing it, just want to double check. Cool. This guy right here, you want to pull this out. There we go. Now we can just kind of set this. Back up there. And now the trick is when we lift this up, that it should just stay leveled. We just need it up enough to where we can get the wheels out of here. And set them back into here. Yeah, so the reason why it matters which way the lift is because when this is up, you can see where the rubber comes up here. Most of the weight is going to be on the front here. And so when we think about most cars, like this car right here is a rear engine, it might be rear bias. We don't want too much weight leaning off of the back, because then the center of gravity of when this lift is all the way up, you just have a little bit more issues with maybe the lift is a little too overstrained, and you can actually have it tip over. It's not going to happen with this lift, but that's just kind of something that you want to keep in mind, is where the center of the gravity on the car is. And you can do that along the way too. So like, say I have a rear engine car and I know that the engine is, is going to be having more weight in the back than the actual front. They do a pretty good job with these Porsches, but still, especially like C8 Corvettes, things like that, we want to make sure that we have it as evenly distributed as possible. Well, you can leave this down, but put this up. And what that'll do is it'll shift the weight forward a little bit more. Now on the C8 Corvettes, the lift points are going to soak up all 4 of these kind of risers here. So you can't really do it with those cars. But it's also so much that you really don't run into the same issue with weight distribution, because it has such a big surface to distribute that over. So yeah, we've got the wheels out. We've got them put where they need to be. Let's slide this guy out of here and just set this up just with the lift stuff, wherever that's going to end up being. It'll probably just end up being in this corner somewhere. Yeah, now this lift is set up. Let's just run a test and go all the way up. I actually want to maybe get some rocks out of these tracks here. Doesn't look like there's any rocks or anything. You're supposed to be greasing these every once in a while, which we'll do later on. Just read the service manual for it. But I'm just making sure there's no big rocks or anything that's going to slide on here. Looks pretty good. And this goes up pretty high. That's it. That's as high as it goes. So I mean, yeah, the bottom of the car right here, a car like that Porsche, I mean, you couldn't even touch the roof with it on this lift right now. So this is the button I was telling you guys about. You have to push this button in order to click down. You can't just click down. So we're going to push this button and click down. And this will take forever to go down because it has no weight on it. But now we're pretty much ready to set this up. I guess while it's up right here, so that you don't have to get the whole video of me putting that down, there's different lockout positions. So the reason why we use race ramps is because sometimes we do end up locking these out. We don't just use race ramps just to elevate the car a little bit more. We actually use those so that we can get the lift set up how we need to without having to move the car too much. So depending on the vehicle, say I had a really short wheelbase Mazda Miata, these might not even go up. You might just have your lift points. You have to check the lift points on the car, which we'll do here in a little bit when we actually get that Porsche on the lift. But you check your lift points and you try to think like, okay, where do I need to have the car front to back in order to get the car lifted up on the lift points? Because every car has different lift points. So some of the really, really small cars, their lift points kind of fit between these 2 points right here. And some of the cars, they only fit, you know, you might have to extend out one side of it, you know, so it'll fit here and fit here. And then, like I said, like on those CA Corvettes, they actually have a really, really long center, a very short back and long front, above, in front of the front wheels. So the lift point's like somewhere about right here and somewhere like right in here. So you do need both of these up. What else is there to say about these? I guess just understanding if you want the backs to be up or you want the fronts to be up. That's kind of it when it comes to that. Most front engine cars, you want the backs to be up so you can have the car a little bit more back on the lift, because your weight is going to be right here on the lift. And you can kind of even see like these bulges. I don't know exactly what they're for, but that's kind of like, I think they're actually so that something can swing underneath here. Yeah, it's a little, I think it's actually for this, on the top of these, there's, what do they call those? Grease. Ah, man. Like things to grease the bushings. I think that little arm kind of swings up into here, so that's why there's this bulge right here. But that's where most of the weight's also going to be, is just kind of like right in here, kind of about this area. All right, so I don't think there's much to mention about, I mean, I'm sure there is something. Lifts are pretty straightforward, and you just want to follow kind of standard guidelines when it comes to lifting a car, which I'll talk about here when we actually get the car on the lift. Yeah, we can set these down for now. We always kind of start with these down, and then once we get the car over, we see, okay, so what we say is, get me centered from the front to the back, and this is what we're using as a centering line, is the distance between the tire, you know, how far the lift is between the tires. We want that to be centered. So when you're looking at the car from way back here, you look at it and you say, okay, you know, you have your tires, it's pretty centered between those 2 points. That's how you know you're kind of good. And then you can kind of, you know, depending on where your lift points and stuff are at, your jacking points, move the car front to back. So we'll show you what that looks like. So the lift is where we want it to be. We've got kind of the wires out of the way. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up these race ramps so we can get the car on the lift, elevated just a little bit, so we can get our lift blocks in there. So let's check it out. Let's grab a couple of these. Now when you're setting these up, you want there to be an inch or so between these 2 points. This car is actually kind of wide. So I go to this outside line right here, and I go an inch away from the lift. Reason being is because when you get the car on the lift, it might even go back. You know, these race ramps might get pushed a little bit. They're pretty good, but they don't usually get pushed. But if they do, you still want to be able to lift this thing up. And you can't do that if the weight of the car is on here and this thing is pressed up against here. You can't actually lift it up. So I always want to make sure that we have like an inch away, and we're good to go. So we'll do that on all 4 corners. Is it? Also, after lunch, you guys can do the BMW. Christian, you're going to have to do it with them.
With Mark?
Yeah, BMW.
Megan's job in BMW. Yep. Should be. White box. Yeah.
Oh, it's fine. It's not going to touch anything. All right, so we're going to get this car on the lift. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to flip it around, and then somebody's going to have to guide me. So probably Christian. Come on over. Come on, come up here. Yeah, come up here. I'm gonna show you some stuff. So you've helped me with this before, right? I think so, maybe once. So we're gonna back the car on there. The most important thing that we're gonna be looking at is we're gonna be looking for, your main thing is like how far off are the tires off of each side. And the easiest way to tell that when we actually get it physically on the lift, now I'm gonna do my best to try to get it lined up as much as possible, but is how much tire is either hanging off or in on the lift. So if this side has 3 inches of tire hanging off of this side, but you're in on the lift 1 inch, well, the car needs to get shifted over this way. Because we want to make sure that we hit all of the lifting points on the car. Sure. So I'm gonna get these race ramps out of the way.
Sure.
And then I'm gonna go over to the car and I'm actually gonna feel where the lift points are. That way I can get a good idea of where I need to be on the lift. So I get down. I'm gonna look to see where they're at, which there is a little triangle right here. And there's kind of like a little bit of a hard part. And I tap it because I wanna make sure it's not plastic. Oh, it's an actual lift point on the car. And there is some metal on the other side of it. So it is kind of a smaller lift point. And then there's like a actual pinch weld underneath here. And then there's an actual metal lift point here. This is the one I want to use underneath here. It's going to be really hard to see, but it's metal. It's not small, it's big. There's nothing around it. Because if something is lower than the lift point, you're just going to crush that thing. So we want to check to see that this is the lowest point, at least around it. And it is. So that's where we're going to use our lift point for the front, which is nice. And then let's go over here to the back. Yeah, it was the same thing, same kind of style lift point right underneath here. Nothing really around it. Want to make sure that the gas, if sometimes there's a fuel tank, stuff on the way, different lines. We just want to make sure that we're not going to crush anything on the bottom of this car. And it looks good. So lift points are pretty straightforward. So let's get this car flipped around. So I'm pretty sure he can hear me, but I'm looking at the rear view camera now that I have it pretty well lined up. I'm gonna get it most of the way. Okay. Does it look pretty centered? Okay, so if he told me that, I'm looking at these lines now and I'm seeing, okay, I'm trying to see if I can correct it a little bit. Yep, it needs to go over maybe just a little bit. Does that look good? Okay, so I'm in the right direction.
Bam.
Okay. Okay, so now I'm looking at these lines. It looks like I might need to.
Taking off on the passenger side is a little bit more this side.
Okay. Yep. I'm gonna go forward just a little tiny bit. And I'm gonna back this up this way. Okay. Does that look better?
You're making on this side 3 inches.
What's on the other side?
On this side is kind of right in the middle.
So like 1 inch, 2 inches?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we might be okay. Just knowing how wide this car is. Let me look in this, open this up, just see, okay. So looking at the door, looking at this on the other side, is it pretty leveled with that?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're good. So now come on this side of the car and just tell me, you know, imagine that those flaps that go up.
Oh yeah.
Now look at the tire, the end of the tire, like from the top down, look at that end of the tire and tell me when I'm even between those 2 points.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
Wait, so the end of this tire, the beginning of this tire?
The end of that tire and the end of that tire this way, yes.
Okay.
So tell me when it looks like I'm right in the middle of the lift. How far do I have?
20. About a foot. Keep going. Started getting your rear wheel on the ramp. You got one. Yep, well, yeah. You want to be centered, right? That's
Yeah.
centered.
That's centered?
Right there.
Does it look good? What do you think, Nathan?
It looks good.
Okay. So before I turn the car off, or actually I'm going to turn it off, I'm going to set the e-brake. Now this car does have carbon ceramic, so I'm not too worried about corrosion on there developing.
I don't know exactly what you're looking for, but
So, let's see here.
more back.
It needs to go back a bit. Yeah, so now I'm looking at this because I know where my lift points are. I've got one that is pretty close to the front of that, like it's just in that slit,
Okay.
maybe a little bit more forward. This one is just about where it needs to be.
So you need to.
So what I'm actually gonna do is I'm actually not going to get them centered. I actually wanna pull this car forward and I want you to tell me when this point is right here.
Got it.
Okay, so I need to go forward like 4 inches or so. That'll be nice. Because the engine's in the back of the car, I want this, if I can only put up, because right now I can't put up both the flaps. I have to put up one set of flaps because of where the lift points are at. I want the weight to be as forward as possible. Okay. So I'm gonna pull the car forward, put that front lift up, leave this back one dangling. You get what I'm saying? You'll see what I'm saying. Okay.
I got a thing. Right there. Yeah.
That's perfect?
Right there. Yeah. It's
Okay.
right.
All right.
Down there.
I've got it in first gear and I've got the e-brake set. When I actually get this car in the air,
You're gonna lift.
it's a good idea to take the e-brake off of the car. Now this car doesn't have steel rotors, it has carbon ceramic, so you don't have to worry about moisture kind of between the carbon ceramic pad and the carbon ceramic rotor. Whereas like with normal steel rotors, they'll just rust. And if you have the e-brake on, because we just rinsed this car off because we're about to do a disassembly in PPF, they'll rust. And then that rust will penetrate because it has barely any air getting to it. It'll penetrate pretty hard into the rotor. And so you'd have to get up to speed to get the rotor clean again. But sometimes if you get up to speed, too quickly and the rotor gets too hot, those rust spots will not heat up in the same temperature as the rest of the wheel. It'll be too hot or too cold. I don't know which one it'll be, but it'll cause a hot spot on the rotor, or basically that the rotor has now worn unevenly. And so when you hit the brakes, you'll feel that vibration either in the back or in the front, depending on where the moisture was. Your steering wheel is going to shake, stuff like that. So we'll put the key aside here real quick, just for sake of the video. Now I'm gonna get, this is what I wanted to do, was just get this front up. Now you see how close that is to hitting right here? It's even just hitting it right there. Right. Now if we didn't have the car on race ramps, we couldn't have lifted this up to where it actually releases, it puts the lock where it needs to go. And so to release the lock, just so you know, you can just lift it up. That's how it's just this little pin right here. So that's how we put it up. And then we'll just make sure it's even on the other side. Yeah, looks good. Cool. One thing I'm kind of thinking about too is I have to do some disassembly on this car. So, you know, I have to get the front bumper off, the back bumper off, headlight, tail light, all that stuff off of the car. And so, you know, if I'm removing the full wheel liner, which on this car I'm not going to, but on some cars you do, you want to make sure that you're able to access the bottom of that. So I would actually even pull the car probably another inch or so forward, because there's a couple of screws at the bottom right here that you'd have to access. On this car, it's not that big of a deal. So let's go get our blocks now, which are just like standard lifting blocks. We just want to make sure that we grab ones that are all the same height. So there's 2. Now, we work on a ton of C8 Corvettes, so these are C8 specific lifting pods. So you're not really ever going to use that on another car except for a C8 Corvette. I think C7s actually have the same kind of lifting pod as well. But yeah, we just want to make sure we grab the 4 that are the same height. Some of these have grooves in them, some of them don't. Like this one has like a ridge around it. As long as I grab all 4 that are the same, I'd rather just grab the ones that don't have a ridge, but yeah. These are my lifting pods. So I'm gonna put 2 on this side of the car, and I'm gonna go over to the other side of the car and get these where they need to go. So the lift just goes straight up. It's not gonna shoot back, it's not gonna shoot forward. So where we set these up, it is just gonna go straight up at that point. So I wanna get this right where it needs to be. And I wanna imagine, because sometimes you have quite a bit of a distance to travel to before it actually hits it. I wanna imagine that it's going straight up and it's not gonna hit anything. So I'm looking really, actually even a little bit deeper at some of the plastics here and just making sure that it's not gonna hit anything. So that looks good right there. Let's go to the back. And so this right here, since it's not locked, it's just gonna go down and it's gonna flap. You know, sometimes if this was, like this is kind of on the edge. If it was forward maybe a little bit more, once the suspension is unsprung, this tire might be actually touching the lift. So if we were doing a wheel removal, just to be on the safe side, I might actually even back this up like 1 more inch. But because this one is kind of a tight fit on the lift, just in general. So this one back here, I actually see some plastics a little bit deeper. And I'm thinking, okay, if I go straight up from there, am I gonna hit those? Well, if I go forward if I go in another inch, I would hit those. But if I keep it kind of right here, looking front, back, you know, behind it as well, I'm not gonna hit anything. So that's good right there. Yep. And I want that lifting point, because the lifting point's only about that big. My block is that big. So I want my lifting point ideally to be centered on there. Now, if it's just, oh man, I can't get it centered on there because it's gonna hit this, it's gonna hit that, then yeah, we can move it over a little bit, kind of on that block, but it's not 100% necessary for this one. We can just keep it nice and flat in the middle of it. Because you can imagine if you had like a ton of weight pinching on the side of this, well, this is just gonna collapse and crack. So we do want it as centered as possible on that lifting point. Well, this goes back a little bit here. That looks good. Let's get this one over here. these plastics are actually kind of in the way too. Let's just make sure. Looks pretty clear. Yeah, it's clear. Cool. So now, when we go to actually lift up the car, we're just gonna come over here and lift it up. So we click the up button. This is the first time doing it at this shop. At our last shop, our 220 or 240 was the furthest away from the box. And it was just acting up every once in a while. So we'll see if it actually is pretty nice here. So the first thing I do is I lift it up just a little bit. All 4 points are touching. So I'm coming over back into the car, and I'm just making sure I am not touching anything else other than the lift points. It looks good. Looks good. We'll do the same for the other side real quick. Because right now there is a bit of weight on here, but it's not so much that you're gonna break something. So I wanna verify before I go up anymore that everything's still looking good. And it does. Looks great. Perfect. Okay, so then we go up a little bit more till we get the wheels off the car. Or off the, oh yeah, this is way better. So the lift used to hesitate to kind of get it that last little inch until it was fully lifted. So yeah, the electrical in this building is a lot better than our last one. So I get it up about this much, and then just for the sake of video, I'll go on this side, but I usually do it on the other side. I just actually put a little bit of weight on the car, and I look at it and I see how much it might be bouncing. And it's pretty solid. I mean, it feels solid. You'll know when it's not solid. The car will be doing some weird stuff. But again, we're not high enough to where it's gonna cause too many problems. So we wanna just verify that we just kind of, as we start to lift the car, we're just checking it, right? And so this car is rear engine. This is where most of the weight's gonna be. And it feels solid. We got it kind of far enough. And so now we can continue to lift it. Now, just kind of in my head, this is about as high as I go most of the time, okay? You can get all your work done this high, you know, this and that. If we're gonna lock it out overnight, I would just lower it, especially if it has its wheels on there. But if you do need to put those locks in there, you do need to go all the way up. As I get above this point, I don't know, it's just kind of something in me. I don't know if it's true or false, but it kind of feels a lot more risky once you kind of get it above this point. So I am gonna verify it again, that it's staying solid. And we're gonna put this up just to show you it can, but I don't really ever put it up any higher than this, especially because it's rear engine. I'm feeling it. I mean, it feels good. But yeah, I'm just not gonna lift it up all the way. It's just something in me, I don't know, I can't do it. So I'm actually gonna lower this just a bit. It's because if this was a 4-post lift or like a scissor lift, it'd just be what it is, right? But the center of gravity, the higher you go up, changes on this lift because it's a scissor lift. So that's why I just kind of like, I'll just stay at this height. I can get everything from this height. I can sit down on a stool and just get everything. This is why we put it on the lift, is so that we can not break our backs. But no, it looks good. Everything looks good. This is lifted. So that's how you put a car on the lift.